Look, it's just a fortress of this single species. Wow. Little goldenrod poking. Look at this portal, dude.
Yeah.
Purple Trail portal.
It's the blueberry portal.
Blueberries. Ooh, pawpaws.
Yeah.
There's a big pawpaw. It's like 30 feet tall.
Where?
Right in front of you.
This?
Look to 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Oh shit. Oh, what?
But can we look at this mushroom first?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Thread to Mend podcast. My name is Taylor and I come to you from Baltimore, Maryland. And this is a podcast about all things fiber related. I mostly touch on the subjects of knitting and spinning. And in this episode, I just have some knitting to show you and some talk about spinning. Actually, I have spinning to show you too. Anyway, how are you? It's been a while since I've posted a podcast, and it might be the last podcast I post before Rhinebeck, also known as the New York State Sheep and Wool Festival. So if you're planning to go, let me know, and if you see me there, tap me on the shoulder, say hello. If you're not planning to go, I totally understand those feelings of FOMO. I know that I probably wouldn't hop on a plane to get to Rhinebeck if I lived far away. Luckily, I'm about 4 hours to Brooklyn, where I have a friend that I can stay with on Friday night after work. We're gonna drive up late at night, and then we're gonna drive the few hours distance to upstate, and then do the festival all day long. Last night I bought tickets to Christy Glass's bowling night because I did have a FOMO moment. I didn't want to miss out, and I mean, I would like to go bowling. I don't have a reason to go bowling in Baltimore, but I like bowling, and you know, worst case scenario, I just go bowling with my husband. There's a bunch of knitters there, which is awesome. I am stressing a little bit about what projects. So like I'm like, okay. Sorry, I have a throat thing happening in the last few days, but everyone's stressing about getting their Rhinebeck sweater done, and you probably, if you watch this podcast, already know that I have my Rhinebeck sweater finished. So what I'm stressing about is what knitting am I going to bring in the car. Right now, I'm working on a ranunculus sweater with this beautiful Quince & Company Piper yarn. It's a single ply lace weight yarn, and I'm almost done. I'm like moments away from finishing the sleeve. I literally have like, I want to say 6 rows to knit on the sleeve. And you know, one thing I wish I could have avoided is there were a few times that I had a yarn break. Can you see through that? Maybe you can't. When I hold it up into the light, I can see where I have ends woven in. And this is not a split splicing yarn. It's just two, for one, I think it's superwash, although it might not be. And it's just, it doesn't have enough ply to it. I don't know. It's just, I tried. So what I do when I split splice is I split the plies on both strings, wet them, rub them, and like the plies themselves are really what I think holds it. Or at least that's where the grip comes. With this, it's like you only have 2 ends because it's a single ply. And I've tried once, I didn't try again. I just weave in like several stitches extra. Anyway, so yes, this has just been sort of languishing because I've had a few issues with dropping stitches when I tried a few different methods of knitting the sleeves. I am a 9-inch circular knitter. I like sleeves and legs and all the things on all the tubes, all the small circumference tubes. I like to knit on 9-inch circulars, and I don't have that in a size 10. I did just drop all my stitches on one side of this magic loop circular, so I'm going to pick those up. And I don't think it was on the magic loop that I was dropping stitches. It was on the short stint of DPN knitting, which I don't enjoy, and I'll probably never do. And I literally only own them for when I need a 3-needle bind off or like to hold stitches here and there. I rarely ever use a DPN. This is my ranunculus sweater. It'll be done. I'll probably wear it sometime soon. Because I don't know what I'm wearing. I know what I'm wearing on Saturday to Rhinebeck. I'm only going to be there one day. So I might pack a backup outfit in case I need to change, because I think my sweater might be more ideal in cooler weather. If it's warm, this might be a nice alternative. So I hope to finish this just as a backup sweater in case I need a warm weather garment. I feel like that everyone's gonna roll that way after the last 2 years at Rhinebeck, because one year it was really hot, the next year it was rather chilly. So it's like you really don't know what you want to wear that day all day long. Anyway, I hope that I'm going to take some footage of this year to show you on my podcast. Oh yeah, the footage that you just saw before the intro was Brian and I hiking in the Patapsco State Park here in Maryland. And it was, at the time, it was a few weeks ago, like prime pawpaw season, and we wanted to see how many pawpaw trees we could find, if there are any fruit, if the fruit is ripe, whether we could taste any. I know you're not supposed to collect from public parks, but whatever. Yeah, we didn't take too many, that's for sure. There's a huge abundance of pawpaws in that area. So that was rather fun. My dog is hilarious. She was dragging herself in that video, just like wanting to rub her belly against the grass. So I hope you didn't think I was dragging her. I did start and finish a knitted garment object before since I last recorded, and this is it. It's just a cute little winter hat. It has a bit of hair stuck on it, sorry. And I knit this with the handspun yarn I had left over from my Golden Hour shawl. So if you're not familiar with the Golden Hour shawl, it is designed by Andrea Mowry. I believe she uses the that Cormo yarn. It's not the core wool, that's new, but stone wool Cormo, I think. maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I know that yarn in person, it's like bouncy, it's thick, it's got volume to it. And when I spun this yarn, I didn't have any clue what I was gonna knit it with. It's funny, I was dyeing this one fleece, every different color I could forage, and I was like, I'm done, I'm not doing anymore. I just have this one left, I'm gonna sit on it. Like, when I say this one, I mean this one batch of dyed wool that I had combed, and it was like ready to be spun, and I just didn't do it because I got a new fleece and I washed that fleece and it was so exciting and I wanted to spin that fleece. And when I spun that fleece, I tried spinning a little thicker, thinking I would get like sport weight, DK weight, maybe worsted weight, and it came out like worsted chunky. So I was like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna make with this. But after spinning those 2-3 skeins of the new fleece, I came back to the old fleece I was naturally dyeing, and it just came out a little bit thicker than I had been doing the previous spins with the same fleece, just because my hand had kind of like changed at the wheel, and I don't know, I was just spinning what I felt like spinning. I'm not like a technical spinner. I don't really measure stuff much. I don't really care to know. As long as it comes out and I like it, then I'm happy. I mean, there will be a time where I bring home a fleece and I want to knit a sweater that's just solid, and you know, maybe it'll be stackinette or something where I need it to be really consistent, and then I'll care. But then, like, it was like last year. I've only been spinning for a few years, maybe a few, I'm not sure. Anyway, I spun this kind of chunky yarn and it just sat in my stash, and then all of a sudden one day I realized it's gonna be the perfect golden hour shawl. So again, Andrea Mowry, you can never go wrong really with one of her designs. I love this garment. It's my favorite shawl. I love this shawl more than even my own shawl design, I would say, just because I like the triangle. The triangle is a good look. And this one's so big, it's like a little bit longer than my it's a little bit longer than my wingspan. And so I'm trying to create a little bit more space in my life. I purged a few drawers of yarn I shipped over to a friend of a friend, just to get some free stuff in their hands and like give me room before buying back. If you have watched this channel for a year or more, you know that I'm not a yarn hoarder at festivals. I do not buy yarn at festivals. It's bizarre. I bought 0 skeins of yarn last year, except for a friend that she paid me back for to give to her mom because she wanted a gift for like Christmas. And then, which I wish I bought myself that yarn, because I'm gonna find it, I hope, and buy it this year. And then the year, because I buy fleeces, so I'm spending $100 the moment I get there. It's like, I'm done, I can't no more. So I don't know what I'm doing this year. I think I'm gonna buy a fleece, but I might buy sweater quantity too. I need to get my act together because I used to make more money than I do now, like $10,000 a year more, and maybe I should cool it on the yarn. But I haven't been buying yarn at festivals. I might not even buy yarn at this festival. I like to buy smaller things, like my fleece is my big thing, and then I'll always get soak wash if I can find it there. You know, like little notebooks, little measuring tools, like little things that I need. I really don't need anything anymore. So I'm thinking about the yarn now. And I'm probably only going to buy a sweater quantity because that's all I ever want to make. So, or I might get 2 skeins, especially if there's a lace weight I can find. 2 skeins of lace weight would be a good deal. And I'm also thinking about checking out this year, because I skipped it last year and I didn't know it was the release of Hairstyle Designs Nightshade yarn. I'm gonna look at their booth when I get there and see what they got going, because it was a huge line last year and I didn't want to look. I Like, I didn't want to wait in line to look at things I didn't know I wanted. I couldn't even see what was in the booth. They have a neat booth set up. It's like a display of yarn, and I think you have like little ordering cards that you fill out like a sushi order. Anyway, how did I get on that subject? I guess I just have Rhinebeck on the mind because everyone's starting to talk about it now on YouTube. And again, if you're not going and you're just like sick of hearing about it, I'm sorry. That sucks. But it is really fun. And right now, I think, not now, but like last year, they were doing like not going to Rhinebeck stuff, which was kind of fun too. Like, I didn't get too engaged with it because I don't have a ton of time to be online these days, or then, or now, I don't know. But I have a bit of a sinus thing happening, and I think it's affecting my brain because I've just felt super rambly today. It's also, I'm like rushing a little bit too because I have to go to work. It's like 7:15, 8:15. It's 7:15. Oh no, it's probably 8:15 and I have a half hour. Okay. I knit a hat. It's knit with my Handspun. The fiber is Cormo. It's a 2-ply. It's a bit chunky worsted. It's kind of a true worsted, but maybe a little thick. And I knit it. So I'm going to tell you how. I don't know what the ethics are on like knitting patterns designed by other patterns. So I'm just going to give you the info right here, right now. So I didn't weave in all the ends. I'm trying to hide them from you. So I cast on 80 stitches. I like to use the German long tail cast on. I knit 1 by 1 rib in the round until I ran out of yarn. Basically, I saved a little bit because I knew I wanted to bring it back, but I saved a little bit. I wish it were longer, to be honest. I don't want to put it on because I already have my hair up. But if it were longer, it could slouch more. That's all I'm saying. So you could, if you're making this yourself for whatever reason, you might make it however long you want it to be. Then I knit this little, see, I'm not going to tell you how to do it because I feel like that's integral to this pattern, and I'm telling you it's from this pattern, but I took this section from this pattern and did that there in the same color. I knit just 2 rows of bobbles as they do here, but I knit my bobbles a little smaller. I think I used a different method maybe, or actually, you know what? I forgot how to knit a bobble and I just like pretended I knew and I did it a different way. Anyway, kind of like that they're smaller because on the head they're not quite as like, and then I did another one, and then I switched back to cream and did the, like, I don't know what this is called, but it's kind of like a lice pattern with 2 rows of the color before you move on. And then this is when so I finished the color work. I did my row of cream solid, and then I decreased, and I think I knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, repeats around the row. Came back to this pattern, did a row of cream, and then once again decreased. And then I think I would knit 2 rows, decrease again, knit 2 rows, decrease again, until I got so few stitches I could just bring the end through the loops and close it off. And I, with what was left, so this is like literally all the Handspun left over from this project, every inch of it went into this hat. So I'm not a hat wearer. I wear my hair on my head because I have a lot of it. And also, when you have long hair, when I say long hair, I mean hair that goes like past your shoulders maybe. Hats, like, it's like the bottom always gets scrunchy. I don't know. I'm not a hat wearer except when it's like dang cold. And I think that this will be really cute when it's dang cold outside. And when it's not dang cold outside, I just feel weird wearing it. So that's that. That'll be my hat for the year, I guess. I do have a hat pattern I bought from Caitlin Hunter, and I bought a skein of yarn for it on my vacation in July. I'll probably knit that hat too, and maybe wear it more often than that one. That's like my snow day hat, I think. I wanted to make it because I had the yarn left over. I love this pattern. I wanted to do a little homage to it. And so the only reason I didn't do the color work of the crosses was that I don't think I had enough. Let's see, I did like very few stitches, right? Of the, like 1 out of 4 stitches is gray. And I only did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And this pattern is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10 rows. So I don't think I would have had enough yarn if I tried. So that is an unexpected little project done. I also have a little unexpected spin finished. Forever ago I showed you a bat of yarn I carded on my drum carder, and it was like 2 ounce. I was given a huge inventory of a friend's boss's wife's basement de-stash. She used to own some sort of shop. It must have been a long time ago because it didn't exist when I lived in Baltimore. And she had these like 2 ounce bags from Paradise Fibers of like every different kind of fiber that there is. And in fact, I met this woman at the farmer's market one Saturday years ago. And I was knitting while walking, and she said, "Are you knitting and walking?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." And she's like, "I'm Petra." And she complimented my scarf or whatever. And Petra is a very uncommon name. I remember her mentioning she likes to travel, and I think I found her on Ravelry, and I was like, yes, that's the person. So when I got this de-stash, all I knew was that it was my friend's boss's wife's former inventory, and one of the hand combs said Petra on the side of it, so it's got to be the same person. But Baltimore's a really small city when you live here. Like, you kind of see the same people everywhere you go a little bit. Anyway, so I acquired this de-stash, and I took 3, 4, 5 2 ounce bags. Let's see, this is 160 grams, so that's got to be at least 5 bags, maybe 6 of fiber. And I didn't write it down, but I do know there was Tussa silk, alpaca, Corriedale, and cashmere. Or no, maybe camel? Maybe cashmere. I think it's cashmere. Because the camel I have set aside for another one. I kind of split a bunch of bags up, and I carded these bags into a bat. And I spun them, actually this is 2 skeins I just tied together. I had previously shown you one of those 2 skeins, and I had the other one finished. So as I mentioned, this is about 160 grams. I think it's so mixed that it'll kind of show at a distance a rather solid kind of tweedy gray. I'll give you a little close up. This is not perfect spinning, by the way. It is very loose, not loose literally, but like I'm not trying very hard to do it perfectly well. And because of the amount of silk and alpaca in this fiber, there's almost no elasticity. Like, there's very little wool in this yarn, and there's like no give. And that's maybe one of the first times I've knit so much alpaca and silk at once. And I will say it's challenging because when you're spinning with wool, the crimp of the fiber gives you this bounce, this elasticity to kind of feel with your hands, and you can feel how quickly or how loosely the wheel is picking up the fiber. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room to like correct yourself so that you don't overspin your singles. And I overspun my single, and I'm pretty good about not overspinning my singles anymore with wool fiber. Like I've trained my hands a little bit, but I tell you what, with this stuff, it happened before I knew it. Like I didn't think it was happening the whole, for probably hours. And then I looked at my wheel and I'm like, dang, I overspun this. So when I was plying it back, there were moments where I didn't even try to get the overspin out because I couldn't. There was no elasticity to stretch it out. That's another thing, is like, even when you overspin wool, when you're plying it back, you can kind of manipulate it so that you're getting the kink out before the two strands come together. And that wasn't possible here. So if I could show you, maybe I can get it to focus. There are areas where it's not really that focused, but there are areas where one of the plies is just like a spiral of overspun fiber. So this, I hope, will be my like next summer tank top t-shirt thing. I'll probably knit a t-shirt in this if I can get away with that. Maybe I'll do like a bottom up style so that I can switch to like a spaghetti strap if I'm running out of yarn. Maybe I'll make a design for this and come out with that then. That'll give me lots of time. I like to make designs with my Handspun because you know, we live in this culture where like, I like nice things, right? I like nice things. I like things that are really good quality, which is a lot of the reason why I like to spin my own yarn. I know that knitting is an expensive craft, and like, I can't afford to buy cashmere or even like Brooklyn tweed is like a little outside of my price range, like most people, I'm sure. Or like you think twice before you buy a sweater quantity of something like Brooklyn tweed. But I really like nice things, and so I learned to make nice things on my wheel, because truly the fiber that you process from hand isn't gonna feel the same as fiber that's been maybe stripped of more of its lanolin and maybe beat up a little bit more on the machine carders or combing machines. And I mean, it's never going to be as perfect as machine spun yarn, but it can have like this different quality to it, like minimally processed wool is. And there's very few mills that make minimally processed yarn. And so I just like the creative like freedom of like making whatever you want, and it still being like a really good quality if you just choose those materials. And I like to knit with my Handspun because that's what I'm making. Like that's my inventory, that's my investment, that's my money spent. So I like to knit with my Handspun, and I think because I have already made something from nothing, I feel comfortable making patterns of my own design with those fibers, which also makes it impossible to really, not impossible because I believe in it, but it's not as appealing, I think, to a consumer who wants to buy a product like the pattern and the same yarn to get the same product, right? But like, I don't know, I like the idea that, you know, like just like when you buy a pattern, you don't always buy the same yarn it was made with. Like you want the freedom of making your own like version of the same thing. And so when I make pattern designs and I knit them with my Handspun, I study the yarn I'm making with, and I think, if I weren't using this, what is identical to it? What would be the same? And I don't know what would be the same as this in terms of fiber content and kind of construction, but I'll figure that out before the time comes. And if you have looked at the one knitting pattern I have online, I designed that with my Handspun, and I gave a ton of options that are all the same type of construction or similar grist, meaning like the density of the yarn is similar. Actually, that's not true, because there's one suggestion I made. I'm thinking of, it's the heirloom yarn. That is probably lighter and even better. But you know what I mean, like the gauge would give you the same gauge, same similar fabric. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy about this. I wanted to show that off to you. I'm not going to knit with it anytime soon, but the time will come. Right, so I also been natural dyeing, and I dyed 2 batches of wool. I just got a call, so I had to stop recording for a moment. Anyway, I've been natural dyeing, and I chopped down the majority of my Rudbeckia, also known as black-eyed Susan. It is the state flower of Maryland, and I actually got this plant from the thrift store. Some lovely person plants seeds in little orange juice cartons and leaves them outside of the Salvation Army in Reynoldstown, Maryland, or at least did a few years ago. And so I got this plant from the thrift store, and it's in my garden, and now I have several. And so I just, flowers die, so before they were dead, I chopped them down and I boiled them up, and I dyed 2 batches of wool. Both were mordanted with alum, and one I modified the color with iron oxide. So this is the one without that. It's just black-eyed Susan and alum. And I think that when I comb it out, it's going to be a little bit lighter than this. I didn't think to leave the dye on the fiber for it to dry. While it dried, I rinsed it. And I think in the future I'm going to not rinse my natural dye. I'm just going to let it sit maybe a little longer. I'm going to pull it out, I'm going to dry it out, and I'm going to let it sit even longer, and then I'll comb it, and then I'll rinse it when the yarn is done. Because I noticed that my colors are always pastel. Like, they're always a pastel color. And I don't wear a lot of pastels, but I'm still in love with fiber, so it makes no difference. This is the one I changed with the iron oxide. You can see it's more green. So I have already on my wheel yarn I've very likely shown you months ago that I hand combed, and I'm spinning that. It's just over 100 grams. If I had to guess, I have at least that much in each of these bags. So what I'm thinking of doing, because I don't love all the colors, personally, like I wouldn't buy them, I'm going to comb and spin all of them into singles on 1 bobbin per color, and then I'm going to apply the 3 colors together into a 3-ply construction to make 1 solid type of yarn with hopefully about 300 grams of fiber. I have a default spinning weight, and that's like really light fingering, almost when it's my 2-ply, it's almost a lace weight. It's definitely a single-ply lace weight. Like, I'm looking at this lace weight right now, and when I pull out my single, it's definitely thinner than this. So my 2-ply is just a little bit thicker than this, so it's a light fingering, and I think that with the 3-plies I'll have like a heavy fingering, maybe a sport weight, and I'll make like 1 solid sweater with all of this fiber. It's also from the same fleece, so it'll be nice to have a project that is a 1 fleece garment, all naturally dyed, but still a solid garment, so I don't have to plan, how many yards or grams of this color for this color work pattern or whatever. That sort of trips me up a lot, because I don't very often knit a lot of yarn in the same color. I think like a lot of people, I get bored easily and I'm like ready to move on to the next thing. And so this will let me do that with the different colors, but then bringing them all back to one 3-ply. Let me just look over my shoulder and see if I have anything else to show you this week. Ooh, I had jury duty. I didn't get picked because I let them know I had a doctor's appointment I couldn't move, which was totally true, by the way. And that it would be uncomfortable for me to sit for long hours, which I do when I knit, but I do that by choice. So, and I have the freedom to stop and move. So I brought this project to jury duty. I did not follow the rules on the internet, and I did bring my knitting this year, and I do not regret it. I think that when people put stuff like that on government websites, they only imagine the traditional, like, straight needles that are very likely a weapon, but this is no bigger than a pencil or a pen. And so if you're telling me that this is a weapon, I mean, maybe the cord could strangle someone, but I just was like, no, I'm not leaving my knitting home. I'm bringing it without asking. So this is a little weird because I'm not like right on the edge of the front or the back, so I'm holding this funny. I like to knit with my 32-inch cable, so I can't stretch this out completely for you, but this is the back. Here's the front of my Daydreamer pattern by Andrea Mowry. I'm a fan. Can you tell? She pretty much started my knitting career for me. And when I say career, I mean hobby. I just dropped a stitch. I don't know what to do. I feel like I have noticed an issue with this pattern. I need to figure out what it is, because it says knit the chart. And then the chart is like an inch big. And then it's like, now split for the whatever. And it's like, no, how many times do I knit the chart? I'm not splitting for the neck yet. So, sorry to get flustered, but I'm just like, the last garment I finished had a pattern correction and it bummed me out, and I don't want to be bummed while knitting cables. But I feel like maybe I should show you something because you can help me with this. All right, here's my cable work. Like, that is perfect looking, right? It looks like the honeycomb. But something happened up here where, like, it doesn't translate. It's not the same. I don't know if it's that I got my gauge a little looser because I felt more comfortable. I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing it. And then suddenly, like, it's not what it could be. Do you see that? Tell me that you see that. Tell me that you see that my knitting is up. So what do I do? Do I stop and go back? Do I just plug on? I know I didn't mess up the pattern though, because unless I messed up the entire way I read the pattern, I didn't notice an error. I think it's that I was knitting really tight and then I loosened my gauge up. I don't really want to rip back. It's kind of bugging me. It's also one of those things that once you wear the sweater, you're never going to notice that it's like not defined. You can see it, right? Can you see that? Just tell me I'm not crazy. Or tell me that, tell me that I'm not crazy. Tell me that there's nothing wrong with this. I've never knit anything more luxurious than this fabric. This is Elsa Wool Cormo Woolen Spun fingering weight. I think I bought the 10% gray. I love this yarn. I've been hoarding it from myself, and I'm holding it together with Isegar's Mohair Silk, which was a huge splurge. This is an expensive sweater in my eyes, and I want to make sure I do it right. I'm not knitting garments anymore that fit kind of awkward. I'm knitting up garments that fit perfect. So I'm gonna figure out what's happening before I move on with this, but it better be soon, because I don't want this to languish for years and years. Just tell me what's happening. Tell me what's happening with my patterning. Will you? Can you tell me? Is it correct? It looks correct. Anyway. Okay, I actually have to go to work now. I re-recorded this podcast today after editing it the first time, and I was like, I'm done editing this. I don't even want to. But yes, so I will see you later. I hope I see you at Rhinebeck. I hope I even record a podcast before then. But I just wanted to show you the things I've been doing, because you're the only people that like are into this stuff in my like daily life. I don't go to a guild. I don't go to a knitting circle. I don't even go to the yarn store. I don't want to talk about that yarn store. It's fine. I'm a garment knitter. I need 4 skeins or more in any yarn that I buy. And if you only have one of everything, like, you're not serving me. And I'll see you later. Okay. All right. I love you. I'll see you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.